What if you turned around and that prayer wheel on the mezzanine was right there so you could walk past it and spin it every time you go by? What if somewhere a menorah was there so you could see it holding up its 8 or 7 branches? What if somewhere there was an icon from one of the Orthodox churches? What if it were a chapel of all faiths? A place dedicated to the dignity and diversity of religious life in West Michigan. I don't think such a place exists in this part of the state. And of course, religions are famously competitive things, aren't they? They all want to take you from that church over to that church, save your soul from that kind of hell so you can go to this kind of hell instead. And of course, one of the things Fountain Street Church is known for is not taking part in any of those arguments. Well, I'm saying the reason we don't take part in those arguments is because we think there is no argument. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi said, I came to the conclusion long ago that all religions are true and all of them are in error, and whilst I hold to my own, I should hold others as dear. So we can only pray if we are Hindus. Not that a Christian become a Hindu, but our inmost prayer should be a Hindu should be a better Hindu, a Muslim, a better Muslim, a Christian, a better Christian. This, I believe, is the hospitality of the Spirit that we represent. And that when I say that we should become a house of prayer for all people, I don't mean just individuals. I mean communities themselves should be able to come in this door and feel a genuine respect for who they are spiritually. And know that that same respect is offered to every other community in this town. To manifest a spiritual hospitality that I have not seen in this town and needs to be seen if the future, not only of Michigan, but clearly given the tensions in the world itself needs to hear. Now, I'm not saying it would take all that much. What it would take, and this is the hard part, is it is not for us to choose what those objects should be. That would be rather high-handed, don't you think? Well, we'll put something Jewish over here and something Christian over here and something... No, we'll have to go to the Jewish community and say, here's our plan. We'd like to create an interfaith worship space. What would you be willing to give something to make that happen? Go to the Muslim community and would you help us do this? We go to the Buddhist community. Can you help us do this? Because it's not just building a space, it's building a community by building a space. Did you hear what I just said? The space is the object. The process of connecting is what makes it an interfaith location, just like we do with our Muslim friends. And if you weren't here in the fall to eat Indian food with our Diwali, you missed another great interfaith moment. We can do this. We don't even have to spend all that much money. And we all know money is the most important thing. We can do this because it manifests not only to the community, but to ourselves, our commitment for true spiritual democracy. Because we all get a little prideful of our own point of view. Well, we have Christians here, but I'm not one of them. Or, we have atheists here, but I think they're kind of strange. We have to get past that. We have to get past that jockeying for status in ourselves. If we are spiritually democratic, we have to mean it. And creating an interfaith space is a little bit like making a public promise. You can't back down once you've done it. Now, I want to take you one more step. When that chapel was built, it was designed by Alden Dow. It's named after Deb Snow's mother, am I right? Absolutely. Thanks. She's got a good voice. I love it. You speak up, Deb. I love that. The roof was translucent, meant to let the daylight come in, and we had to cover it up because the snow, it's West Michigan, fell on top. That was 40 years ago. I'll bet you there's a solution now. Because ultimately, whatever religions we see around us on the walls, we need to be reminded of the larger reality that all of them are human constructs. Archbishop Temple, the latitudinarian Anglican of the 20th century, said, "We are gravely mistaken if we think that God is at all interested in religion." We need to be able to see the sky, especially at night. For as Immanuel Kant observed, two things ever fill my mind with ever-increasing awe and admiration: the moral law within and the starry heavens above. We need the humility of the sky to remind us that none of us is carrying a torch for God. None of us has the lamp of truth in our possession. That all of us have just smoky torches that only light the pathway but one step ahead, as George Santayana put it. And we need a place where all those lamps can burn and we can revere them for their light and notice their smoke and look up and remember that we are fragile, small creatures in a universe too large to be grasped. We need to feel the sunlight upon us. That will cost money. But I want you to want that. I want you to want that moment, because if we did that, I'll predict something. The chapel would become the hub of this church. This sanctuary will stay. The church house would stay, but the spirit of the church would dwell there, because that's where the communion with the sky, where the connections with our communities, where the promise of our openness of heart would dwell. And I submit to you that in the long run, will do more good for us than almost any other act of physical improvement. To create of our chapel the promise we make to ourselves to be humble hosts to every community of the Spirit. It could be the thing around which the next life of Fountain Street Church revolves. It connects our history with our future. And now let me come back to the psalm. Do you remember what I read earlier? They feast upon the abundance of your house. You give them drink from the river of your delights, for with you is the well of life. This house is called Fountain Street Church. Fountain. Do you hear the word fountain in it? Water for thirsty people. I want you to imagine that we really could pour out the water of life to people looking for us up there in the balcony, tasting us, wondering if we're the place for them, and to communities trying to find rapprochement with other communities. They feast upon the abundance of your house. We have an abundant house. But do people know we have so much to give? And you give them drink from the river of your delights. You know, I came here wondering, where was the fountain? I think it's in a little place right next door to this sanctuary. A river of life, the waters of life, that we can pour out for ourselves and others with no cost at all, because they are bottomless. The sky looks down, the earth sustains, and we here are honored to have the waters of life. Imagine that. Imagine that. Amen and amen.